Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned at birth.
I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born, I'm talking about biology, male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
And
say
what does intersex mean?
is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex, okay? There's male, there's female.
All right, folks, buckle up. Because what you're about to see is Washington, D.C. in full clown mode. This is Senator John Kennedy asking basic, common-sense questions and getting answers that sound like they came straight out of a gender studies seminar funded by your tax dollars. Before we start, hit like. If you believe biology is real, hit subscribe if you're tired of being gaslit, and let's get into it.
Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that. Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned at birth.
I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born, I'm talking about biology, male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
and
say
what does intersex mean?
Is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex, okay? There's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as
more than five.
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than five genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than five genders?
Well, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
Are there more than five?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is that gender is a reflection.
Number?
Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
Let's get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are three sexes, male, female, and intersex.
I believe that to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And there are an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl, okay? Biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real-world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are
You don't
shorter.
believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport, in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chairman.
Kennedy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all women. And at the end of the day, in this conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women, who deserve to play in a gender that matches their sports, who deserve all the benefits that Ms. Gaines is talking about. And as a cisgender black woman, I can say definitively that my womanhood is not threatened by a transgender person asserting hers as well.
So Senator Kennedy asks a simple question. Simple. Are there two sexes, but more than two genders? And immediately, we're off the rails. Now suddenly it's, well, I wouldn't even say two. There's intersex. Sex and gender are being conflated. Hold on. We're not talking about philosophy. We're talking about biology. Male, female, that's it. And before anyone starts screaming, yes, intersex conditions exist, but medical exceptions do not erase biological rules. We don't redefine humanity because 0.01% of cases are medically atypical. That's not science. That's ideology. Then comes my favorite part. There's an infinite number of genders. Infinite. So let me get this straight. There are infinite genders. But we're supposed to build laws, sports rules, school policies, and prisons around vibes? How do you legislate infinite? How do you protect women's spaces with infinite? How do you run sports with infinite? You don't. And that's the point. Chaos isn't a bug. It's the feature. Quick poll in the comments. Type biology if you believe sex is real. Type feelings if you think reality should bend to personal identity. Let's see who's still grounded. Now here's where the house of cards really starts shaking. Senator Kennedy asks, Do biological males have physical advantages over biological females in sports? And instead of saying the obvious, something every athlete on Earth knows, we get, it depends. Not in all cases. I'm not a physician. You don't need a medical degree to know this. You need eyes. Men dominate speed, strength, endurance, bone density, lung capacity. That's why there's women's sports. Men's sports. If biology didn't matter, we wouldn't separate them in the first place. Then comes the Serena Williams argument. And I've heard this one 1,000 times. Yes, Serena is a legend. Yes, she's one of the greatest female athletes ever. And guess what? She and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player. That's not disrespect. That's reality. Elite women lose to average men in elite sports. And that's okay. What's not okay is pretending otherwise to push an agenda. And Senator Kennedy nails it when he says, "You lose credibility when you refuse to acknowledge biological reality." Exactly. You can believe adults should live freely. No one should be discriminated against. People deserve dignity. And still say, men and women are biologically different. Women deserve fair competition. Parents have rights. Children shouldn't be ideological battlegrounds. That's not hate. That's sanity. This isn't about what adults do in private. This isn't about disrespect. This is about girls losing scholarships, women losing records, parents being ignored, truth being bullied into silence, and Americans are done pretending. We can be compassionate without being delusional. If you're tired of being told, you're hateful for stating facts. You're confused for believing biology. You're the problem for defending women. Then welcome. You're not alone. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more unfiltered truth. And comment below, should biological males compete in women's sports? Yes or no? Let's talk, because silence is how insanity wins.